Police fear a murderer may have struck again in the Southern Highlands following the discovery of 2 bodies near Bowral.
7 backpackers entered the forest. None came out alive. Between 1989 and 1992, young travelers from around the world vanished along Australia's highways. They were chasing adventure, freedom, the promise of the open road. Instead, they found something waiting in the shadows of Belanglo State Forest, something that turned paradise into a killing ground. This is the story of Ivan Milat, the backpacker killer, and the investigation that would become one of Australia's most notorious murder cases. In the early 1990s, Australia was a backpacker's dream. Miles of pristine coastline, friendly locals, and a culture that embraced hitchhiking as a way of life. Travelers from Europe, Britain, and beyond flocked to the continent, thumbs out on sun-soaked highways, trusting in the kindness of strangers. The Hume Highway stretched between Sydney and Melbourne, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through dense bushland. Just off this main artery lay Belanglo State Forest, thousands of acres of eucalyptus trees and tangled undergrowth, remote, isolated, perfect for camping, and perfect for murder. In December 1989, 19-year-old James Gibson and 21-year-old Deborah Everest disappeared after leaving Sydney. They were hitchhiking south. No one saw them again. The following year, Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters, 2 British backpackers, vanished in April 1992. Then Simone Schmiedel from Germany. Then Anja Habschied and Gabor Neugebauer, a German couple engaged to be married. 7 young people, all gone. Their families across the ocean waited for postcards that never came, phone calls that never happened. Australian authorities weren't connecting the dots. These were international travelers, transient by nature. Maybe they'd just moved on, but they hadn't moved on. They were already dead, their bodies decomposing in shallow graves beneath the forest floor. September 19, 1992. 2 runners training in Belanglo State Forest noticed something unusual, a scrap of fabric caught in the underbrush. Curious, they investigated. What they found would haunt them forever. It was a body, or what remained of one, partially buried, badly decomposed, surrounded by scattered camping gear. The runners ran for help, and within hours, Belanglo Forest was swarming with police. The forensic team faced a nightmare scenario: dense forest, bodies exposed to the elements for months, possibly years. But as they carefully excavated the site, the horror multiplied. There wasn't just one body, there were 2. Joanne Walters and Caroline Clark, the British backpackers missing since April. The injuries told a brutal story: multiple stab wounds, spinal damage suggesting the killer had attempted to paralyze his victims, evidence of sexual assault. Caroline Clark had been shot in the head, execution style, 10 times with a small caliber weapon. The killer had taken his time. This wasn't a crime of passion or a robbery gone wrong. This was methodical, practiced, evil. Over the next year, more bodies emerged from Belanglo's darkness. In October 1993, another search uncovered the remains of Deborah Everest and James Gibson. Then, in November, 3 more: Simone Schmiedel, Anja Habschied, and Gabor Neugebauer. 7 victims, all backpackers, all hitchhikers last seen on or near the Hume Highway, all killed in the same isolated stretch of forest. The pattern was unmistakable. Australia had a serial killer, and he was hunting travelers who trusted the wrong person for a ride. But there was someone else, someone the killer hadn't counted on. On January 25, 1990, British backpacker Paul Onions was hitchhiking from Sydney to Melbourne. A man in a 4-wheel-drive vehicle pulled over, friendly and talkative. His name was Bill. He seemed nice enough. They drove south on the Hume Highway, making conversation. Then, near Belanglo Forest, the driver's demeanor changed. He pulled over, claiming he needed to get something from the back. When he returned, he was holding a gun. "This is a robbery," he said. Paul Onions did the only thing he could. He ran. He bolted from the vehicle and sprinted toward the highway, the driver chasing him, trying to grab him. A van approached and Onions flagged it down frantically. The woman inside stopped, and Onions jumped in, screaming for her to drive. His attacker watched them speed away, then calmly returned to his vehicle and disappeared. Onions went straight to the police. He filed a report, gave descriptions, provided details. But the investigation went nowhere. No one had been hurt. There was no weapon recovered. No arrest was made. Onions returned to Britain, shaken but alive. He was the lucky one. He was the one who got away. 3 years later, in 1993, Onions saw news coverage of the Belanglo Forest murders. The location was exactly where his attacker had pulled over. The victims were all hitchhikers just like him. The time frame matched. He contacted Australian authorities immediately. This time, they listened. Police established Task Force Air, pulling together more than 60 detectives to hunt the backpacker killer. The investigation was massive, coordinating across states, dealing with international families, processing forensic evidence from 7 separate crime scenes. Paul Onions became their breakthrough. He provided detailed descriptions, worked with sketch artists, recalled specific details about the vehicle, a silver 4-wheel drive with distinctive modifications. He remembered the driver's accent, his build, his behavior. Investigators began tracking gun sales in New South Wales, looking for anyone who'd purchased weapons matching the ballistics from the murders. They interviewed hundreds of witnesses who'd seen hitchhikers along the Hume Highway, and they found patterns. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a man offering rides to backpackers, a man driving a 4-wheel drive, a man whose description matched what Paul Onions had provided. The name that kept surfacing was Milat, Ivan Milat. He was 50 years old, a road worker living in Eagle Vale, a suburb of southwest Sydney. He had a criminal history, petty theft, firearms offenses. He knew the Hume Highway intimately through his work, and he owned guns. Police showed Paul Onions a photographic lineup. Without hesitation, he pointed to one face. "That's him. That's the man who tried to kill me." It was Ivan Milat. Task Force Air began surveillance. They watched his home, tracked his movements, built their case brick by brick. They had a survivor's testimony. They had circumstantial evidence, but they needed more. They needed proof that would stand up in court. They needed to search his house. May 22, 1994. Armed police surrounded the Milat family home on Cinnabar Street in Eagle Vale. Ivan Milat was arrested without incident, looking genuinely shocked as officers swarmed his property. "What are you doing?" he protested. "I haven't done anything." But inside his house, investigators found a museum of murder. In the garage, the shed, hidden throughout the property, they discovered the personal belongings of all 7 victims. Camping equipment with names etched on them, backpacks, sleeping bags, Caroline Clark's camera, Simone Schmidl's Walkman, Deborah Everest's water bottle. Some items were still in use. Milat's family had been eating off plates that belonged to the victims, sleeping in bags stolen from corpses, using camping gear taken from the dead. The weapons were there too. A Ruger rifle matching the ballistics from the forest, knives consistent with the stab wounds, rope matching the bindings used on victims. Investigators found more than 250 items linked directly to the murders. It was overwhelming evidence, damning evidence, evidence that painted a picture of a predator who'd been hunting for years, collecting trophies, keeping pieces of his victims like souvenirs. But Milat maintained his innocence. Even as police laid out the evidence, item by item, victim by victim, he denied everything. "My brothers," he claimed. "It must have been my brothers." The Milat family was large and troubled, several brothers with criminal records. But investigators knew better. The evidence was specific, the timeline was clear, and they had Paul Onions, the survivor who could put Ivan Milat behind the wheel, gun in hand, hunting backpackers. Ivan Milat was charged with 7 counts of murder, plus the attempted murder of Paul Onions. The trial began in March 1996 at the New South Wales Supreme Court. It would become Australia's trial of the century. Media from around the world descended on Sydney to cover the proceedings. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They presented the forensic evidence, the ballistics, the personal items found in Milat's home. Each victim was humanized, their photos shown, their families' testimonies read. These weren't just statistics. They were real people with real futures, stolen away on a lonely highway. Then, Paul Onions took the stand. He walked the court through his terrifying encounter, identified Milat without hesitation, described the moment he saw the gun, and ran for his life. His testimony was powerful, credible, and consistent with everything he'd told police years before. Milat's defense tried to create reasonable doubt. They suggested his brothers were responsible. They questioned the forensic evidence. They attacked witness credibility. But there was too much. Too much physical evidence, too much testimony, too much proof. On July 27, 1996, after a 15-week trial, the jury returned their verdict: guilty, on all 7 counts of murder. Ivan Milat stood emotionless as the judge sentenced him to 7 consecutive life sentences, plus 18 years for the attack on Paul Onions. He would never walk free again. Milat smirked at the families in the courtroom, showing no remorse, no emotion, no humanity. To the end, he maintained he was innocent. That it was all a mistake, that he was the victim. No one believed him. Ivan Milat spent the rest of his life in maximum security at Goulburn Correctional Center. He was a difficult prisoner, staging hunger strikes, attempting escape, making weapons from prison materials. Always defiant, always manipulative, always playing the victim. But investigators believed the 7 confirmed victims were only the beginning. Milat had been a long-distance truck driver for years, traveling across Australia's vast highways with unlimited access to remote locations. There were other missing backpackers, other unsolved disappearances along his routes. How many more bodies might be buried in forests across the continent? How many families would never know what happened to their children? He never confessed, never showed remorse, never gave families the closure they desperately needed. On October 27, 2019, Ivan Milat died of esophageal cancer in a Sydney hospital. He was 74 years old. Even in death, he remained defiant, taking whatever secrets he still held to the grave. The impact of his crimes rippled across the world. Backpacker culture changed overnight. Hitchhiking, once seen as the ultimate expression of freedom and trust, became synonymous with danger. Tourism to Australia dropped. Families across Europe, Britain, and Germany warned their children about the risks of traveling alone, of trusting strangers on empty roads. Belanglo State Forest, once just another patch of Australian bushland where travelers might camp under the stars, became a place haunted by tragedy. Today, a memorial stands among the trees. 7 posts marking the sites where young lives ended in terror. Visitors leave flowers, photographs, messages of remembrance for the victims whose only crime was seeking adventure. The families of those 7 young people fought for decades to ensure their loved ones weren't forgotten in the shadow of the killer's infamy. They wanted the world to remember Caroline's laugh, Joanne's kindness, Deborah's dreams, James's spirit, Simone's courage, Anya's love for Gabor, and Gabor's plans for their future together. Real people with real lives, not just names on a victim list. And they wanted the world to remember Paul Onions, the backpacker who survived, who found the courage to come forward years later when it mattered most, whose testimony helped ensure that justice was served. Ivan Milat wanted to be remembered as a monster, to instill fear, to have power even from behind bars. But the real story isn't about him. It's about 7 young people whose lives mattered. It's about families who never gave up. It's about a survivor who became a hero. And it's about hundreds of investigators who worked tirelessly to ensure that evil didn't win. The forest has started to heal. The trees grow, the birds sing, and slowly, Belanglo is becoming just a forest again. not defined by darkness, but by the light of those who are remembered there. 7 backpackers entered the forest. None came out alive, but their stories did. And those stories changed a nation. If this case affected you, if these stories matter to you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're covering 30 days of true crime cases that shaped history, and your support helps us continue telling these important stories with the respect and depth they deserve. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss tomorrow's case. And if you or someone you know is traveling alone, please stay safe. Trust your instincts, share your location, check in regularly. The world is full of good people, but it only takes one to change everything. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there.